Hello, my name is Gwen. I'm also known as Gwen the Naughty Hooker on my social media on TikTok and Instagram. And welcome to my brand new YouTube channel where I will be posting all things crochet, from crochet tutorials to advice, tips, tricks, yarn reviews, all that great stuff. So today we are going to be making a crochet keychain wrist lanyard. As you can see, I have one already made. This is the first one that I made. I use this literally every day. It's probably my most used crochet creation. I made it last year in May, around this time, and so I figured it would be time to share this pattern with the rest of the world because it really is super handy. I would recommend making this pattern, one, for yourself if you're just interested in having something little easy project to make for yourself, but I also recommend making it if you're going to be selling things at a market. I would sell this for like $5. It's something small, quick, and cheap that you can make that would attract people into your booth. They see $5, they're like, okay, that's in my price range, and then it might entice them to look at the other things that you've made, and then maybe they'll buy those things too. So nice cheap thing that you can make super quick and easy. I would say at most 2 hours of crocheting for me personally, and I would say I'm not a very fast crocheter. It's literally, you do a row of single crochet and then you do some double crochet all the way around. It works up really quick. So if this is something that you're interested in, then keep watching because I'm going to take you through it step by step how to make it. So let's get started. First, let's talk about the materials that you'll need. So first you'll need some yarn. You can use whatever yarn you like for this pattern. I am using the Big Twist cotton yarn in the colorway Violet Splash, which you can see on here. For the previous one that I made, this was in the denim colorway. But as you can see, this is the original yarn that I used for that. It has faded significantly. I made it about a year ago. So something to keep in mind if you're going to be choosing your yarn. I will say it's been very durable. It's held up really well. The color just faded. So that was a little bit unfortunate, but totally fine. I do have a little note about the yarn. If you do decide to use a different yarn, you can use a different thickness of yarn, different material. Just keep in mind that you will have to use a different hook size and that the shells will turn out bigger if you use a thicker yarn and smaller if you use a thinner yarn. I started one in some acrylic yarn. It's also a weight 4, but it's a little bit bulkier than the cotton yarn. And as you can see, it's much bigger, much thicker. So if you don't like how thin this one is and you'd like it to be maybe a little bit thicker, definitely size up in your yarn, maybe use a different fiber, whatever. So just, that's something to keep in mind whenever you're making this project. The yarn doesn't necessarily matter because it'll still turn out, but it will make it thicker or thinner. So if you want a more chunky one, I would use a thicker yarn. I recommend using whatever hook your yarn recommends. So this is a weight 4 yarn. And then it says to use a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. I did size down, so I am using a 5 millimeter crochet hook for this pattern. But you can use whatever yarn, whatever hook you liked. You will need a tape measure. This is very important because your starting chain is going to be about 14 inches. So you will need to measure. Then we have a yarn needle to weave in our ends whenever we're done, a pair of scissors, and then I don't have one right at this moment. I will be grabbing one from my storage, but you will also be needing a key ring like the one that I have attached on here. And then that is pretty much all that you are going to need today. So I'm going to clear out my space just a little bit. So the great thing about this pattern is that it is made to measure, like I was saying. And that means basically you can use any size yarn or any size hook that you would like, as long as it's complementary to the yarn. as long as you are making it the correct length and the correct number of chains. Now, it's not a specific number of chains, but it is kind of specific. Let me explain. So basically, your starting chain is going to be a multiple of 4 plus an additional 6 chains. The reason that we do that is because to do the repeat for the shell stitch, you need 4 stitches for each repeat, and then on the ends you're going to have 3 stitches on each side, so that makes a total of multiple of 4 plus 6. Hopefully that makes sense, but you'll see what I mean as we get going. So to make our chain, first we must make a slip knot. So to make a slip knot, we are going to start with our yarn like this. Make a little loop. You've got your tail end here, you've got your working yarn here, and the working yarn is just the yarn attached to the ball. And to make a slip knot, you're going to kind of like pull this in a little bit, get them nice and close together. You're going to take your tail end and you're going to wrap it around over the top of your working yarn, go up and then over, and you're going to make a pretzel. Then you're going to take your tail of your yarn and you're going to put it underneath this loop right here. So lift it up and stick it underneath there. So now both your working yarn tail and your yarn end tail are both underneath the loops of the pretzel. So you can literally just lift this piece up, but that's not what we're gonna do. Instead, we're gonna pinch right here on this piece of yarn, and then we're gonna pinch this piece of yarn with our other hand, as well as this one together. So you're gonna pinch these 2 pieces together, and then you're gonna pinch this piece, and you're gonna pull it through this loop that you've made right here. So grab these 2, grab this, and you're gonna pull it. You're gonna pull that sucker tight. Now you have made a slip knot. And now at this point, with the slip knot, you've got your tail of your yarn again. You got your working yarn. You're gonna pinch it at the knot. You're gonna pull on the working yarn. It's gonna tighten your slip knot, but don't pull it all the way, because if you keep going, it'll untie it. We're gonna leave it there. We're gonna pick up our crochet hook, and then you're gonna put that slip knot right onto your crochet hook, grab your working yarn, pull it tight. And now you have put a slip knot onto your crochet hook. Beautiful. The next step is going to be to chain. Now, there are 2 ways to chain. There is yarning over, and then there is yarning under. So let me show you what that looks like. When you're yarning over, you're going to take your working yarn, you're gonna let your yarn tail dangle, and you're gonna take your working yarn, and you're gonna go up over the back of that crochet hook and over. And then you're gonna take your hook and you're gonna pull that loop through, and that's a chain. Now, there's another way to put your yarn over your hook. So that way that I just showed you was yarn over, where you go over the back and over the hook. But there's another way, and that way is yarn under. And so to yarn under, you're gonna do this, grab the same yarn, the working yarn, and instead of going over the back like that, you're actually gonna come up over the front of the hook, like that. So with yarn over, you're gonna take the yarn, you're gonna go over the hook, over the back. You're gonna take the yarn and go further away from you first, and then pull it towards you. With yarn under, you're gonna pull it towards you first, and then push it away from you. So that's the main difference between yarn over and yarn under. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I personally yarn under. Most patterns will tell you to yarn over. For this pattern, it doesn't matter either way. You will see me yarning under, but I'm going to tell you to yarn over. Right now, this is a disclaimer. I'm telling you this. You can choose whatever method you would like to use, whatever is more comfortable to you. Whenever I personally started crocheting, I learned the yarn under method over the yarn over method, and it's more natural to me. So that's what I do. That's why you'll see me doing it a little differently. But that's all. So we're going to yarn over or yarn under, and you're going to chain. To make a chain, you're just going to pull your yarn through the loop. So chain 1, chain 2, and as you're chaining, you'll see these little V's start forming. Each V is a chain. Each chain is a stitch, okay? We are going to do a multiple of 40 plus 6. I like to start with 46 because 4 times 10 is 40, plus 6 is 46. So I know that that is a multiple of 4 plus 6. So that's what we're going to start with. And then we're going to measure it to see how long it is, if it meets the 14 inches requirement. And then if it does, we will move on. If not, that's all right. We'll figure it out. So go ahead and chain your 46 and then meet me back here when you're done. All right? All right. So we have chained 46. So now we are going to measure. So I'm just going to lay it out flat. Try to get it as straight as possible. And I'm going to take my tape measure. I'm going to measure it. And it looks like we're at 13. So I'm going to chain 4 more. And I feel like that should probably be good. And that will make it 50. And 44 plus 6 would be 50. So yeah, 4 more. 2, 3, 4. So we ended up doing 50 total. And then whenever I measure it, that ends up being 14 inches. So now we are going to move on to the next step. We are going to chain 1 more. So yarn over, pull through, that is 1. Then we've got this chain here and this chain here. In the second chain from the hook, so not this one, but this one, you're going to do a single crochet. Now, how do you do a single crochet? Well, let me show you. So in that second chain from the hook, 1, 2, you're going to insert your hook. You're going to put your hook through both of the loops on the chain, so through both the loops on the V. So now you should have this loop right here on your hook, as well as these 2 loops here. I like to pull my yarn tight, make sure it's nice and tight on there. And now you're going to yarn over. You're going to pull through that chain, which will leave you with 2 loops on the hook. You're going to yarn over or yarn under, and then you're going to pull through both those 2 loops. And that is 1 single crochet. So let's do that again. In the next stitch, we're going to do the same thing. You're going to insert your hook into that chain through both of the loops. So insert that. You're going to yarn over. You're going to pull through that chain. You're going to have 2 loops on the hook. You're going to yarn over again. And you're going to pull through both those 2 loops. So that is 2 single crochets. You're going to single crochet all the way down the chain until you get to the end, and then you'll meet me back here. So I shall see you in just a minute. Okay, so we are almost done with our row. I just have a few more stitches, so I'm going to finish those really quick. And you can go ahead and take this time to recount your stitches, make sure that you still have a multiple of 4 plus 6 for your total number of stitches. In this case, I did 50. The multiple of 4 would be 44. You add 6, that gets you 50. It would just depend on the yarn and your tension, your gauge, and all of that for how many stitches you got, but it should be about 14 inches long. So go ahead and recount. The stitch count is very important in order to do the pattern, and you'll see why in a moment. All right, so we are done with our first part. So now we are going to move on to the next step. So when we were crocheting, we crocheted into the tops of the rows, and on the top of the row you can kind of see the V formation formed between the 2 stitches, those 2 loops that you put your hook through. So from here we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then from here we're going to crochet into this side of this stitch here. And if you look closely, you can see that the stitch is comprised of 2 loops, a left loop and a right loop when you're looking at it from the side. We're going to insert our hook into that right loop. So insert your hook, and then we're going to do a single crochet, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And you're going to do 2 more single crochet into that same loop. So insert your hook back into that same loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. That's another one. Insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 3 single crochet into the end. So you should have like a long row of single crochet, and then an end that kind of looks like this. There's going to be a gaping hole here. It's not that noticeable once you put it all together. You'll see. From here, we're going to chain 2 more. 1, 2. And then we're going to go into the bottom of our stitches. So like I said, from the top of the stitches, you can see kind of that V shape for those 2 stitches, those 2 loops that you put your hook through whenever you're doing a stitch. That's the top of the stitch. Bottom of the stitch, which is easier to see from the side, this is the top here. The bottom is this bottom loop here. As you can see, I'm pulling the loop out. These loops on the bottom of the stitches make the bottom of the stitch. We're going to be working into these loops on the bottom. So to find our first stitch, you need to find your yarn tail, not your working yarn, which is the yarn that you've been using, but the end of the yarn from whenever you made your slip knot. We're going to find that. You're going to pull on it. When you pull on it, you'll see that loop a little more clearly. So the loop that's attached to your tail is the first stitch that you want to work in. So into this stitch here, we are going to do a half double crochet. And to do a half double crochet, we're going to yarn over before we insert our hook into the stitch. So yarn over. Now we're going to insert our hook into that loop. So insert. Yarn over again. So at this point there should be 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on the hook. You're going to pull that first yarn over through that first loop. You're going to have 3 loops left on your hook. You're going to yarn over again, leaving you with 4 loops on your hook again. And you're going to take that yarn over loop and you're going to pull it through all 3 of those loops. And that makes a half double crochet. So now we're going to move on to the next step. You are going to make a double crochet. You're going to skip the next stitch and you're going to double crochet into the following stitch after that. Now, to do a double crochet, you're gonna yarn over, you're gonna skip this first stitch here, the one right next to the one that you just worked into. You're gonna skip that one, and you're gonna go into the next one. So you've got one yarn over, you're in that loop, and then you're gonna yarn over again. You're gonna pull through on that first loop, leaving you with 3 loops on the hook. You are gonna yarn over one more time. You're going to pull through 2 loops, leaving you with 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over again, and then pull through those final 2 loops. And that is 1 double crochet. Now we are going to do 5 more double crochet into this stitch for a total of 6 double crochet in the same stitch. So we're going to do another double crochet together. We're going to yarn over. We've got 2 loops on our hook. We're going to insert our hook back into that same loop. So we've got 1, 2, 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over again. Pull it through that first loop. 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over. Pull through 2. That leaves you with 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over again and pull through 2 more. So that makes 2 double crochet. Then we're going to yarn over again. Insert the hook back into that same loop. Yarn over again. Pull through. That's 3 loops. Yarn over. Pull through 2 loops, leaving you with 2 on the hook. Yarn over. Pull through 2. Yarn over. Insert your yarn into that loop. Yarn over. Pull through that loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over. Pull through 2 loops. Yarn over. Pull through 2. I'm going to do this one a little bit faster, and I'm going to show you how I usually do my double crochet. So I yarn over, I insert into the hook, but instead of taking the time to yarn over like I was before, but instead of individually wrapping it like that, I already did my yarn over before I inserted, so the yarn is already on this side of the hook. So I just kind of drape it over like this instead of wrapping it around. I drape it over, and then I catch the yarn with my hook and pull it through, kind of all in one fluid motion. So let me show you what I mean. This is what we were doing before. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through. But what I normally do is I yarn over, insert, catch the yarn with my hook, pull it through that loop, and then pull through. So it all ends up becoming one fluid motion, like that. And then you proceed to make your double crochet. That wasn't super fluid, but you get the idea. Whereas what we were doing before, it's a lot more clunky, but it's the same effect. So just a little way to kind of speed it up a little bit for yourself. You'll find that as you crochet more, you kind of get a feel for how to hold your hook and how to hold your yarn, and you kind of naturally start to find these little shortcuts and move faster. But that's just kind of one way that I've learned to make my double crochet stitches a little bit faster. So a quick recap on what we've done so far. You made a row of single crochet into your chain. Then into that row, you chained 2. Into the edge of the row, you did 3 single crochet. You then made a half double crochet into the bottom of that same stitch. So that stitch has stitches in the top, the side, and the bottom of it, all the way around. After your half double crochet, you did skip a stitch, and then into that following stitch, you should have done 6 double crochet. And it should look something like
this. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to skip the next 3 stitches. And then into the 4th stitch, we're going to make 6 more double crochet into that same stitch. So we're gonna yarn over, and then I like to identify which stitch I'm going into. So we're gonna look at the bottoms of these stitches. I've got one here, that's 1, 2, 3, and then this is the 4th stitch, which I'm going to be putting my hook into. I insert my hook, I pull the yarn through, and then I make 6 more double crochet into that same stitch. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. So as you can see, this original row that you made is kind of starting to curve a little bit. That's normal. Trust the process. All right. Whenever you come back around and do the shells on the other side, it'll even it out. We are going to continue with this same general pattern until we reach the last like 3 stitches. So how we're going to do this is we're going to continue to skip 3 stitches. So you're going to skip 1, 2, 3. You're going to yarn over 1, 2, 3, insert your hook into that 4th stitch, yarn over again, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Do a total of 6 double crochet into that same stitch. And you're going to continue to do this all the way until you're at almost the end of the row with 3 stitches remaining. And having that 3 stitches at the end is very important, so don't forget. And if you don't have 3 stitches at the end, you got your stitch count messed up at some point, and you're gonna have to probably go back and figure that out. But I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more. So we are gonna continue doing this. I know this is the 3rd time I've said it, until you reach the end of the row. But there should be 3 stitches remaining at the end of the row when you're done. All right? So I will meet you back here once I have finished this side, and then I'll tell you what to do after that. So I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, so you have completed your row, aside from the last 3 stitches, like I said, and we are going to move on to the next steps, and then around to the other side. Skip the next stitch, and then we're going to half double crochet into the last 2 stitches. So skip this first stitch. It's kind of hard to see the first one because it's really close and right next to the previous one that you did, but it's right there. So skip him, move on to the next 2. We're gonna half double crochet, so of course you yarn over first. You insert your hook, you yarn over again, and you can do that with whatever method you choose, whether you physically take the yarn and put it over, or you just catch it with your hook and pull it through. That works too. So 1, 2, 3 stitches on the hook, yarn over once more, pull through all 3 loops. You're gonna do that in the next stitch. Yarn over, insert your yarn into the hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. You notice I just switched up between those 2 methods there. did not do that intentionally, but that's okay. So now we've got a nice long strip of these beautiful shells. Look at that. And then we've got this kind of like wonky end here and this kind of wonky end here. But worry not, friend. It's gonna look great when we're done. So, with those words of reassurance out of the way, we're going to move on to the next step. And in this step, we are going to be crocheting into the side of that single crochet stitch at the end of the row. So in order to do that, we are going to chain 2, and then we are going to do 3 half double crochet into the side of the stitch. And this part, it's not as like obvious where the side is because it's like the other side of the stitch, but it's just like the furthest loop outward, if that makes sense. So we're gonna yarn over, tug on a loop and get it to kind of pull on out for you. Whatever comes out works, in my opinion. We're doing half double crochets and we're doing 3 of them. So 1, 2, and 3. Awesome. Now we're going to chain 2 again. And we're going to mirror what we did on this side on the opposite side. So we're going to half double crochet into the top of the stitch this time. And remember, the tops of the stitches are those V shapes. That first stitch might be a little tight. There we go. So 1 half double crochet. Do a half double crochet into the following stitch. You're going to skip the next stitch and then you're going to do 6 double crochet into the following stitch. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So now we've done 1 of the repeats, kind of, on this side. And you can see that it kind of like balances it out. And you'll see more as we go along. So now we're going to continue the repeat from the last side on this side. And that repeat is just skipping the next 3 stitches and then into that 4th stitch doing 6 double crochet. So skip 1, 2, 3, into the 4th we do 6 double crochet. Okay, so I finished my 2 shells on this second side. As you can see, it's starting to straighten it out a little bit. From here, you're going to continue the repeat where you skip 3 stitches, double crochet 6 into that same stitch, skip 3 stitches, double crochet 6 into that 4th stitch, and you're just going to continue that all the way down. When you get to the end, I believe there will be 2 stitches left after your last 6 double crochet. You will be skipping that stitch, half double crochet into the last stitch, chain 2, and then you will slip stitch into the chain 2 from the very beginning of this round. And then I will meet you back here when we have just 2 stitches left in the row. All right, we are in the home stretch, y'all. So, you have crocheted all of these beautiful shells at this point, right? We've got your 2 stitches left, the one right after your 6 double crochet, and then the one at the end that the chain 2 is coming out of. You're going to skip the next stitch, and then in the very last stitch, you're going to do a half double crochet. So skip this stitch, and then in this next stitch, you're going to do your half double crochet. Insert your hook, half double crochet. Then from here, we're going to chain 2. And then we are going to slip stitch into the second chain of the chain 2 that's coming out of this last stitch. So that's the first stitch, that's the second stitch. So you will slip stitch into the second stitch of the chain 2 as seen here. To do a slip stitch, you are going to insert your hook into that second chain. It might be a little difficult to get your hook in there. You're going to yarn over, you're going to pull it through, 2 loops on the hook, and then just pull it through that last one. So now we've got this. We're going to lay it out flat. We're going to fold it in half. Okay. And then you're going to chain 1. And then you're going to slip stitch to combine these 2 ends. So you're going to line them up together. So you should have them lined up with your 3 single crochet lined up with your 3 half double crochet. And then we're going to slip stitch across these 3. So insert into the first on both sides, all the way through both sides. This. So into that first single and half double crochet, we're going to do a slip stitch. So yarn over and just pull that all the way through all the loops. Go into the next one, through all the way. Yarn over, pull through all of the loops. And then into the last one, you're going to insert all the way. Yarn over and pull through all of the loops. From here, we are going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're going to flip your work, and you're going to insert your hook into the far opposite side, all the way through, slip stitch again, chain 1, flip it again, and this time we're going to do 5 single crochet around this loop. So to do that, you're going to wrap your hook around instead of going through the stitches. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, that's 1. Go around, catch the yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, that's 2. Go around, catch the yarn over, pull through 2, that's 3. Go around, catch the yarn over, pull through 2, that's 4. And 1 more, go around, catch the yarn over, pull through 2, that's 5. We are going to slip stitch just into this this stitch right here where the chain is like coming out of on this side. It's the very last stitch of the row. We're just going to slip stitch back into that same stitch. This one might be a little hard to get your hook into. As you can see, I am struggling. Okay, so insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, pull through. Now, We've got it done. We're gonna chain one more. Okay, we're gonna cut our yarn. And then we're gonna take our hook with this chain and we're just gonna pull that end out of that loop and pull it tight, and that will tie off the end. So from here, we've got our loop, our wrist part. We've just got 2 more steps. So first we need to weave in our ends, which we've got 2 of those. So let's start there first. We need a yarn needle. So we'll take our yarn needle and let me show you how I weave in my ends. So we're gonna attach the yarn to the yarn needle. And then this is the end that's in the loop that we just made. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick my needle through these stitches that make this row before the loop. I'm gonna stick the yarn needle through those stitches. I'm gonna try to make sure I'm going through just the tops of the stitches so that it's going through stitches and not just like over the back of them. So the needle is going through the stitches. I'm gonna pull the yarn through all the way. And then I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna skip this first loop here and I'm gonna go back in the opposite direction and feed my yarn through. And I'm gonna go back one more time, skipping the first loop and then going all the way through. So that is usually where I will stop, but because this looks like it's giving it needs a little more reinforcement because there's this hole there, I'm also gonna go through this section where that hole is. And hopefully that'll kind of strengthen that area up a little bit. And do the same thing, go back and forth 3 times at least. Sometimes I do 4 if I'm, feeling a little overzealous. Okay, then you're gonna trim that end. And that is how I wove in that end. So now we're gonna go to the other end, which is where you started. Whoops, dropped my yarn needle. But I'm gonna go to the other end, which is where you started. Put the yarn on the needle. And then this time I'm gonna go down that row of single crochet that we first made whenever we first started. So I'm just gonna go through the single crochet stitches. I usually go through about 3 to 4 stitches. And then I go back and forth 3 to 4 times. So just go back and forth. And this way it is secure, it's not gonna come unraveled, and you can trust to like hang your keys from this. So there we are, we're gonna trim this end. And then the last step is to add the keychain. So let me do that. And then we will be done and you will have your very own keychain lanyard. So I will be right back. And so now I just need to attach the key ring. And you just feed it through that loop at the end like you would any other key or anything. And then that's it. And so the 14 inches recommendation, again, is just a recommendation. If you want it a little bit tighter than this, feel free to make it a little bit shorter. If you want it more loose, you maybe want to make it big enough to wear around your neck. Go bananas. Do whatever you feel is right. This is just a good length for me. This is how I like to hold my keys on there.
It's great for whenever I'm like bringing in groceries and I also have to like carry my house key with me. So I'll just put my key on my wrist, carry all my groceries, and then it's just a lot easier. If you make this, please tag me in it on Instagram or TikTok. I would love to see your creations, what kind of yarn you use. I'm also going to be typing up the written pattern for this pattern, and I will eventually be creating a Gwen the Naughty Hooker blog where I will be uploading my free written patterns. So keep an eye out for that. I will announce that whenever that is up and running. If you want to see more videos from me, subscribe, hit that like button, and yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching. See you later.